All right. Good morning to some. Good afternoon to others. Looks like we still have a few people still joining, handful of people still joining the webinar. So we'll get started here in a couple minutes. All right. It looks like most people have been able to join. We'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone again for joining here today. Welcome to our webinar, Tag Inspector. We just wanted to go through today overview of tag management systems, what they are, how they work, what are the different players out there, some keys to think about when selecting a tag management system, some primary things to think about as you're going through the implementation, migration process, and then some different ways that you can better leverage the tag management system that you're potentially using now or potentially using in the future. So to get started with just a little bit of housekeeping items, today that's me, your presenter. My name is Lucas, the product manager here at Tag Inspector. I also do tag management consulting work. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Tag Inspector is a product of InfoTrust LLC. On the InfoTrust side of the house, we do web analytics, tag management, and then also obviously product development work with thousands of websites, do a lot of trainings on a yearly basis, and have offices here where I am in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the US, as well as in Dubai. To quickly go through just the agenda, like I mentioned, we want to go through some high-level items. So just a quick introduction to tag management systems, what they are, how they work, how you can leverage them. Want to dive a little bit deeper also into the central data layer, which is one of the primary advantages and things that you can really leverage when managing all of your tags through a central tag management system. So I want to go through what that looks like, what the architecture looks like, what are some of the data points that would be contained within a central data layer or a central data object, and then why it's so important to be able to set that up, to be able to leverage for all the different tags that you're managing within your TMS. I'll then go through some of the different selection considerations for a TMS. So things to think about. One, if you're in the situation right now looking at potentially implementing a tag management system, as well as if you currently have something and you're looking for, hey, maybe there's a better option out there. Just a few things to think about as you really go through that process and consider some of those different options. I'll then go through the major players, so who they are, what are some of the value propositions. I'm not going to really do a real big deep dive into each of them, but still high level information. Why I always, will talk to people and have different clients that will choose different vendors and go through some of that high level functionality. We'll go through the implementation and migration process. So what you need to think about as you're implementing a tag management system, as you're working to migrate to either a tag management system or from one tag management system to another. Then at the end, we'll have some time for summary and Q&A. So any questions that you have, feel free to drop them into the GoToWebinar panel, and I will answer them at the end. If there's anything really pressing and it's relevant to what we're going through at the time, I might hop in there and answer them at that time. So feel free to drop them in there. So first, high-level overview. What are tag management systems? How do they work? Why are they in use? What are some of those primary value propositions, right? So first, the easiest way to think about these, so what a tag management system is and the function that it is serving, is think about the tag management system as a container. So you have all these different marketing and advertising platforms that you're running on your site. You're running an analytics platform. You might be doing a DMP, like a Crux, or you're running email campaigns. So you have conversion tags and cookie sorts of tags on your site for that particular email platform, such as like a bounce exchange. You might be doing remarketing work. So you're trying to develop a cookie base based upon individuals that visit your site, as well as start seeing conversion information and behavioral information for people that are coming from those campaigns. So you might be using something like Criteo. You might be doing a Facebook advertising. So you have the Facebook pixels deployed throughout your site, one, to build that cookie base, but also to see some of those behavioral insights so that you can dynamically retarget users or see the effectiveness of your campaigns. So you're using all of these different technologies, and they're all deployed on the website. So without a tag management system, everything's going to be hard-coded. So what does that mean? That means that it's written into the page source, so into the actual source code of the page. So it requires development work, one, to implement, two, to modify. And so you have to follow the development schedule. For some people, that might be super, super dynamic and super quick. For others, it might be months or in order to be able to get a new release pushed out. So in the dynamic environment of digital marketing, a lot of times that development cycle is too long. One, and two, it takes development resources in order to be able to make any sort of modifications or update something just for a particular campaign. It's difficult to try out new tools, even if it's, just a 2-week or 1-month trial. So managing these becomes difficult. And enter in then the tag management system. So think about the tag management system just as a container. So it houses all these different platforms, houses all these tools in one central place. You only have to deploy one piece of code for that particular tag management system on the website. And then you can manage all these other tags and add new things and remove things from the site, all from one central offline or third-party interface, aka the tag management system. Also within there, you can set up conditions for when different things should fire, what data points should be collected, all of that good stuff, all in one platform. So that's how it's working in a way that you can really think about it. It's a means of organizing all the different tags, all the different platforms, and then being able to deploy them and manage them all from one central place. So here's just a screenshot of a hierarchy from a Tag Inspector report. And you can see here what I'm talking about. So in this hierarchy, you see these different nodes there on the first level. Anything on that first level is loading directly from the page source. So it's written into the page, or it's being loaded in via like the e-commerce platform or the CDN. Anything they're connected to Google Tag Manager is loading through the Google Tag Manager code. So the only thing we need to be placed on this site is the Google Tag Manager snippet, and then these other tags would be loaded in and configured within the GTM interface. So here's what it looks like. Acts as a container, everything loading through that one central point on your website. So we understand what a tag management is. We understand a little bit how it works, which we'll get into a little bit more, but why are they in use? Obviously, the central organization of tags, like I mentioned, as opposed to having to manage a lot of different things in a lot of different places and have, if there's an issue with one thing, it's unique to that platform. Then you got to check everything else. We can organize everything in one central place to be able to manage it centrally. It might be one individual or one team managing that tag management system and those tags within it, but it's a lot easier than a lot of different things on the site. We can also use common variables and firing rules. Now, these are terminology from the tag management systems, but think of variables just as dynamic values that you can place within a tag or within a platform for it to be able to collect that data point. So a variable might be a product price or a product name or a category ID or things like that, that page name. Different things that can change from a page-to-page basis, but give you some data point for that particular page or the product that's being viewed or added to the carts or purchased. Firing rules, in those variables, let me take a step back, those variables are then what would be collected by the tags and sent up to the various platforms. The firing rules or your conditions are when these different tags should execute. So you might have a remarketing tag that you want to fire on every single page in order to be able to grow that cookie base, but then also a separate instance of it to fire only on your confirmation page so it can collect product information and conversion information. So the firing rules that you're able to then leverage within your tag management system are going to allow you to conditionally fire tags only on certain pages or only when certain conditions are true. One, in order to be able to just get you the information that you need. Two, to make counting and reporting a little bit easier. And three, in order to be able to reduce the weight or the amount of different things that are loading on each page so that it's different platforms are only firing, only executing, only running code under conditions in which it's necessary. Another reason for the use is offline interface, so simplicity. So in one central place, you can manage all the different tags, all of the scripts, all of the variables, all the firing rules and triggers, and then be able to apply them universally across different platforms. So that gets us into some of what those primary value propositions that you'll hear from tag management system vendors would be. So managing tracking pixels in marketing and not in engineering, by being able to centralize a lot of these different things and being able to utilize things like templates within a lot of these tag management systems, it becomes a little bit less of a development task. You're still dealing with code, you're still dealing with scripts, and you still need obviously that testing layer in there. But after the initial configuration, small tweaks and updates to tags can a lot of times be accomplished or taken care of by people within the marketing function that are simply trained on the tag management system. So reduces the burden on engineering, on development, and allows you to be a little bit more dynamic and let the people that are managing the campaigns, managing the marketing efforts, manage the actual data collection and reporting as well. Performance improvements is another thing that can be brought on by tag management systems for a couple different reasons. One, it can reduce that weight of each page by allowing you to conditionally fire different tags, by centralizing using the data layer, which we'll get to, and only referencing one central place and making it a little bit easier for tags to find information about products, about pages, about users. It can also improve performance of individual pages. You have that dynamic ability then for releases and updates to tags because it is managed by a separate team. It doesn't necessarily fall to engineering and fall to development. You don't have to follow that very rigid and sometimes drawn out development schedule for releases and updates. So if you have a campaign, you want to try out a new platform and you want to just deploy it for a couple weeks, it's much easier to do that within a tag management system and be able to send that out. You also then have the additional benefit of ease of migration in the migration process, as well as implementation. So I put this down here, and we'll get to it a little bit more in the implementation and migration section that we'll talk about here shortly. But if you're making major site, like front-end updates, or even back-end updates to an extent, and you have all of your tags currently and properly set up within a tag management system, all referencing a central data layer, as long as you are implementing that data layer in the same manner on the new site, all that you're going to have to do, you can keep pretty much the same configuration of all the different tags, variables, triggers. All you're going to have to do is migrate that one tag management system script and everything that you have built out for the data layer to that new site, as opposed to having to look through each and every tag and pull out the code for each, implement those on the new site or the new front end, and go through that. So it makes it, as your site evolves and different things change, you add new functionality, it makes that entire process much easier as well. So now that we've gone through just a high-level intro to tag management systems, what they are, how they work, I want to get into a little bit deeper the central data layer. So when I'm talking about a central data object or a data layer on a page, I want to go through what it is I'm talking about, why it's so important, how that piece is used. So, hat tip to our friends at Helium, which is one of the tag management systems we will talk about for this visual, but it's really the best visual representation of a data layer. So what it is, it's an object that will sit on a page with all the relevant information, page information, user information, content information, product information, everything that you need to power the tags, the variables, the triggers, the firing rules, everything you have set up within your tag management system. It sits between your front ends and that tag management system and those different tags, so that you can push information from the page, from your back-end systems to that one central place. And then all of your tags and your tag management system can reference and leverage the data points within there. So the structure for this is going to be dependent upon the individual requirements. One, what platforms you're using, what data points you're needing to collect, what tag management system you might be using. But it is still is that central place to push all necessary tracking information. So how it works, it does take some development work up front, and we've done a previous webinar on some of those technical requirements, but your data is pushed from the page to your data layer, and it sits there with that page, content, product data all live there, and it will persist on that page. So you can push in additional event information if someone clicks on buttons or adds a product to the cart. You can push all that information throughout that entire page session into that data layer that can then those data points are then available for the tags to grab. So the application of this with the tag management system is it's one place for all tags to reference. I want to talk previously about some of those performance improvements that can be seen from leveraging a tag management system. A lot of it is due to the data layer here. As opposed to having to scrape the page or look at different forms or each tag tying into different items on the back end, what you're able to do is reference centrally that one data layer for all the different tags. It speeds that up a little bit. Second piece is it makes integrations between platforms so much easier. If everything is referencing the same object and the same data points, it's the same information. So the structure of your data, the IDs and everything that you're using is going to be the same across platforms. So when you get into the work of trying to tie everything together on the back end, maybe tying together online, offline, information from remarketing or your display vendor with your on-site analytics, it becomes much, much easier to marry that data together. Along those same lines, because you're referencing the same pieces of information, it's so much easier to test and monitor proper behavior moving forward. So if each tag is referencing something different on the page, an issue in one tag might not be the same as in another. So if, say you're collecting transaction information, and within your analytics platform, everything looks fine. You're capturing your revenue and everything, but within your Facebook pixel, so when you're trying to attribute conversions to Facebook within the Facebook ads platform, it's not collecting that transaction information. So you now have to dig into that tag, see, okay, what is it referencing? Why is this? Did it move somewhere else on the page? Is it not being published at all? Is it an issue with the actual configuration of the tag? If everything is referencing the same object and the same data points within your central data layer, all you have to do to make sure that it's available on the page is just look in that one central place, and you're good to go. Troubleshooting then becomes, okay, is my tag configured as it should be? We can also monitor just that data layer to make sure that those data points are always available and there's no major issues with the backend system making that information available to the different tags. So here's a screenshot of just what this can look like in the console. So this example here has different product information, a little bit of user information. Then you see some different timing events, as well as events that you can then trigger off of. So product detail, scroll tracking, the product information. So this is just an example of being able to grab all of product information on an e-commerce site, push it into one central place, and then be able to reference that. So I might have a Facebook tag, right? That is, in order to do dynamic remarketing, I need to be able to see, okay, what are these particular users viewing on my website? I can reference then this product name, product SKU information, and pass that up to Facebook in order to be able to create those audiences and other lookalike audiences within the Facebook ads platform, all made possible and simplified significantly because I'm able to push all this information to one central place and then reference it there. Here's another example here. This is with just a little bit more of page and user information. See a number of clients that will use like a user ID for known clients in order to be able to, or known users, in order to be able to tie together online and offline activity. So you can push information like that to the data layer and then pass that up across platforms. So you have that one central user ID to be able to tie together disparate data points and kind of unsilo a lot of that data in the back end. So we've gone through what a tag management system is, how it works, what the data layer is, how that's working, why both of these are so important. Now I want to just cover some of the selection considerations as you're going in and trying to choose what tag management system to use. So what is the primary driver for adoption? And I want to go through just different questions that are necessary to be asked as you're thinking about what different tag management systems should I be using, and then how should I go about configuring that in the next stage. So the biggest questions to ask on the business side is just what is the primary driver for adoption? So why am I wanting to use a tag management system? Why am I needing to implement something new here? So is it a new team that I have managing tags? Do I want to take the responsibility of tag deployment, data collection, analytics out of my engineering and development teams and put it into marketing, per se, which is one of those advantages that I mentioned previously? If it's something around simplicity and ease of use and wanting to be able to make tag deployments and data collection a little bit more dynamic, it's going to be a question of, okay, what platform is going to make this easiest for me? What's easiest to be trained on? What has the most native integrations? What can I kind of trade in and out? If the primary reason for adoption is around performance, so I want a means of better organizing the different tags and pixels that I'm using, and I want to be able to manage them in one central place, reduce the weight of these different things on pages in order to be able to improve page performance, user experience. In that case, I'm going to look for a tag management system that's, one, going to allow me to do just that. Two, is going to allow me to manage different tags both synchronous, asynchronous, all in one place, and might even have some additional performance features, such as being able to send data or have some configurations server side, as opposed to everything being client side and injected into a web page. Finally, if you have the business question of just wanting to be able to better organize data, it might be something where you want something that's a little bit more simplified, one, or two, with additional enterprise types of features. So you're able to organize different tags and different configurations within the tag management system. So all good things to consider, and all good things to really think about, okay, what's most important for me as you're going in and looking at maybe issues you're having with your current system, and then also looking at what are the different options out there and what should I be using. Another major question that you're going to want to ask is around the tags and platforms that are already in use. So a lot of different tag management systems will have native integrations. For example, it doesn't necessarily make sense to use a Google Tag Manager if you're running Adobe Analytics. So think about the different tags and the different platforms and the different pixels that you have now, and which of the tag management systems have native integrations already for those different platforms? What's going to make it easiest to deploy those different tools on your website? And then also thinking about, an extension of that is just ease of use. So is it something where, thinking about who's actually going to be managing this? Is it something where you have a development resource or a quasi-development resource helping you out within the tag management system? In that case, you can start looking at different tools that are a little bit more complex, allow for some greater customization, but at the same time require more code knowledge and development knowledge in order to be able to really leverage the different functionality of the tool. And that leads us into thinking about what resources do you have? Do you have the resources for a paid tool? Does it need to be using a free solution just based upon the investment that you have in order to be able to implement a tag management system? Thinking about ownership of the tool, thinking about, is it the marketing team? In which case I need a lot of plug and play. I need something that's easy to learn. I need something that is easy to maintain. Or is ownership more on that development or operations side of things, where you have that expertise and that knowledge to be able to do a lot of custom configuration? Also think about the different partners that you're currently working with. Are you leveraging, or will you be leveraging any of those partners for management? What do they specialize in? A lot of times different agencies or analytics partners that you might work with also do tag management work. It can really help you with the implementation, migration, and an ongoing management process. So if you're thinking about, you're going to be leaning on them heavily for analytics or any other functionality or help with your website, think also about what it is that they can help out with most. So thinking about that and considering how that plays into what you'd be looking at as you're going into a tag management system, it's now important to go over what are the different options out there. So I want to just go through the major players in the industry here, kind of what each brings to the table, free solutions, paid solutions, some of those native integrations, and then some of those primary value propositions, and also some of the reasons for which I always hear different clients that are using different platforms. So major tag management system vendors really can be broken down into the five big ones here: Google Tag Manager, Helium, Inciting, Adobe's Dynamic Tag Management, Signal, and then also we'll see occasionally some use of some of the smaller players out there. Qubit is one, and then also Piwik Pro is a newer tag management system that we're seeing a little bit more frequently as well. So just going through all these different options that are out there. So the first one, obviously, Google Tag Manager. We see a lot, or I see a lot of clients that are using this solution primarily because one, it's free, and then also because of the native integration with the Google Suite. So Google Analytics, also obviously at the base level, a free tool, so very, very prolific out there in the digital environment. But because you have the native integration between Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager, templates and all that, we see a lot of Google Analytics users also leveraging the Google Tag Manager tool. So obviously, like I mentioned, some of those pluses and features there, native integration with the Google Suite, the fact that it is a free solution. They are beginning to add some additional templates for popular tags. Not nearly as many as what is available within some of these paid solutions. And also, admittedly, even from the Google team, those tags are not updated super frequently, and changes and adjustments are not very often made. There's also some customization possibilities and abilities within the Google Tag Manager platform. You have the custom HTML. You can obviously create different JavaScript variables, custom JavaScript, data layer integrations. There's a lot of different possibilities within that Google Tag Manager platform, even for a free tool. So it kind of gets us to, why do people use it? Typically, like I was mentioning, it is free. So it is easy to implement, easy to test out, easy to get your hands dirty with that platform. And then also, if you're using that Google Suite, the native integrations, especially Google Analytics, but also things like if you're doing a lot of advertising in DoubleClick, you're able to just automatically push some of those floodlight tags to the Google Tag Manager container. Another tool that we see used quite frequently, another, in many cases, free tool, is the Adobe Dynamic Tag Management System, or Adobe DTM. So this is free with the Adobe Suite. So if you're using Adobe Analytics, which obviously is a paid tool, you will also be able to get and utilize the Adobe Dynamic Tag Management System. So it obviously has native integrations across all of the Adobe Suite. So Adobe Analytics, Test and Target, Audience Manager, things like that. All just pretty much plug and play some additional configuration, obviously for more advanced configurations within the Adobe Dynamic Tag Management platform. But also DTM can help significantly in simplifying that process for implementation across those different platforms. Some other pluses with Adobe DTM: it is very customizable. Some would say to a fault, but you are able to, if you have some of those additional development resources, you're able to do a lot with that tool. It can load synchronous tags, which is one thing that Google Tag Manager cannot do, but many of these others can. So if you're doing things like A/B testing, that's one thing to really look at. If you're wanting to manage your A/B testing platform within your tag management system, it's going to need to be able to load synchronous tags. Some technical proficiency, like I mentioned, is necessary for third-party tags when it comes to non-Adobe tags and platforms within Adobe DTM. But for why people use, it's free if you're using Adobe already, and then also if you're using that Adobe Suite, the native integrations, the simplicity of implementation that is available by using this tag management system with those platforms is really helpful. Getting into some of these paid solutions as well, the three most notable and largest, most adopted paid solutions are the Helium Tag, Inciting, and then also Signal. So the first, which we see a lot, especially a little bit more of late, is Helium. Obviously, it is a paid solution. Like I mentioned with Google Tag Manager and a lot of those different template tags that are available in there, Helium has a very, very large tag partner and template gallery. So over 1,000 different tags, different platforms available there, which allow you to pretty much plug and play with a lot of those things. So it will walk you through what the implementation is. You just put in IDs, set the firing rules, put in some of those additional variables and macros in order to be able to collect different data points. But a lot of it's there. You're not dealing with raw code. You're not having to write in custom HTML. A lot of it's there, and you're able to use it. There's also a little bit more enterprise functionality when it comes to some permissions and being able to work side by side across an entire team. When it comes to Helium, it is cloud based, so you can load in a lot of these different things from the cloud, and then Helium and also some of these other, which we'll get to, paid tag management systems are starting to bake on some of their own additional functionality on top of simply just managing tags. So almost creating their own suite within the tag management ecosystem. For Helium, these include the Universal Data Hub, Audience Stream, and then Data Access. So ways in order to be able to organize and combine information across different platforms, segment those data points, and then create profiles and segments to be able to feed some of those different platforms that you might be managing and might be using on your website and within Helium. Another paid solution that we see quite a bit of is Inciting. Like I mentioned, paid solution similar to Helium. It does have many vendor integrations, again, over 1,000 for that. So it can simplify the implementation process of different tags, different platforms a little bit. It does offer enterprise functionality. And one huge thing with Inciting that we'll see at that enterprise level is it does offer different permissions. So if you have different teams potentially working within the tag management system, you can give different people different access, different permissions within the tool. There's also a number of suite items similar to that platform that I was discussing for building that on top of the tag management functionality. How Inciting breaks theirs down is into individual products that you can layer onto just the manage, quote unquote, functionality within the tool, which are those different items are the manage, pulse, one, mobile, and then privacy. So there are some additional privacy features and functionality there within Inciting. A lot of times we'll see clients using this tool for that enterprise functionality, namely those permissions at that enterprise level. It's also, and similar to Helium and Signal as well, it's vendor agnostic. So you're able to use and manage multiple different analytics platforms pretty easily within the tool. And then also you have those security modules. So means within the Inciting platform of identifying, okay, what tags are here, limiting what's firing and what's not from a security standpoint, not just from a tag configuration, and then also being able to identify tags that might be piggybacking or loading through other platforms. The last paid tool that we'll jump in here today is Signal. Signal is a paid solution. Some of you might be familiar with it in its previous iteration as BrightTag. Signal purchased BrightTag. It was probably about 3 years ago, but they were one of the original main enterprise position as enterprise tag management system. So we'll see a lot of people using Signal just because they have for a while, as well as it does have more of a focus towards that data integration, which is also true, like I mentioned, of Helium. So being able to bring together these different data sources, combine those data points in one place, and then segment and target users and create that singular central customer profile to be able to target across different platforms and across different sessions and even devices is one of the main primary benefits for the Signal platform. Some of these other tools, like I mentioned, I have Qubit and Piwik Pro listed on here. All these different tools, even the smaller guys, offer some of their own benefits. You're able to, in some of these cases, white label these different products. So you can really customize it, especially if you're in like an agency or consultant setting. You can utilize this, white label it for your own tool, and then have your clients using that one central tool for everything. There are some nice customization, again, possibilities with these different platforms. And I would encourage you to, if you are looking at different tag management systems, Don't just limit it to the big guys, but take a look at everyone else as well. There might be some nice functionality that you can really leverage within those. So now that we've gone through who the major players are, some of those considerations as you're thinking about what tool to use and what to adopt, I want to go through some major keys when it comes to implementation of a tag management system, of your data layer, as well as migration of your different tags, your different platforms and pixels to that particular tag management system. So we've talked a lot about in previous webinars, and I talk a lot with clients that are going through this process around auditing what your current landscape looks like. So being able to identify what are the tags in use now, how are you using them, are they in use, what needs to be migrated, what needs to be carried forward to the new system, and then creating that plan around that. So what should be located within the tag management system? What can be, depending upon what it is that you're choosing. What do those integrations look like? How much effort is it going to take to move them and to implement them via the tag management system? What are the requirements, data requirements for reporting for each platform? And then how does that then translate to that data layer architecture? What data points need to be pushed into there? What events need to be captured? And then how does configuration look for these different platforms and for these different data points within the tag management system itself? So very, very important first to review the different tags that you have in use. So completing a tag inventory. Many of you have probably seen something, seen me share something like this similar. This is just a quick look at a pretty basic tag inventory document that we can put together with the tag inspector reports. But what this allows you to do is just take inventory and take stock of all the different tags, platforms that you're running on your site now. What category do they fall into? What is their purpose? How are they loading? Where are they? How many pages are they on? So you can take these data points and start making some business decisions. I always say there's no better time to clean up and throw out trash, if you will, when you're reorganizing. So as you're reorganizing, implementing a new tag management system and migrating tools and tags to it, it's a great time to take a look at what is on the site now and what can be gotten rid of. So a lot of times when you go through this audits and migration process, you'll notice legacy tags, platforms that are no longer in use, or things that you never even knew were there. So you can start going through, and once you have this inventory document, and along the way, you can start thinking, okay, is this necessary? Is the performance impact that this particular tag has, is it worth the functionality that we're getting from the platform? How much is it being leveraged? What groups are leveraging? How much are we paying for this? And again, is that worth it? Based upon the benefit that we're getting from the platform. So going through that exercise starts with the inventory. You got to know what's there before you can start determining where these different things should be, what the requirements are for each, and what needs to be thrown out. The second piece, for once you identify the different platforms that need to stay and should be on the site, you need to go through each of those and identify, okay, what's important? What are the data points that I need? What pages does it need to be on? And then how do those data points that I need to be collecting change on a page-to-page basis or on an event-to-event basis? So by filling out this and by defining these requirements, you're then able to translate this and combine everything over into your data layer architecture. So you're able to define, okay, what needs to be available there on the page for the different platforms, and then what does configuration look like of the different tags, of the different platforms and pixels within the tag management system to be able to fully leverage the data layer architecture and fully leverage all of the functionality within each platform. So putting this together, defining all these different requirements, then allows you to go through that migration process. So start removing tags from the page, implementing them via your tag management system, making sure that they are on every single page, making sure that all the data points are captured as they should be, and then making sure that everything is loading and coverage is there. So just to quickly summarize, I know we kind of went through a lot of high-level information here today, but what we went through was the tag management system and the data layer for each. What are they? How they work together. So your tag management system is that container housing all the different platforms, the different tags that you have on your site. That data layer is that central repository or central area where all of the relevant information needed for those different tags within your tag management system lives. So one central place to reference, and then also one container where all the different tools live. The different options that you have when looking at tag management systems. So what are those considerations that you need to be thinking about? Primarily, what do resources look like? What tools am I using now? And then why is it that I want to implement or potentially change the tool or the tag management system that I'm looking at? By really laying those items out and by putting out and then defining the criteria for which you need, it's fairly greatly simplifies the process of selecting a different vendor for those. I went through who those different vendors are, the primary options that you'll see out there, and then some of the value propositions for each. And then for the implementation and migration stage, what it is that you need, both from a configuration standpoint within your tag management system, as well as requirements and architecture within that data layer. So once you define those different pieces, you can put together your migration plan and then execute on that plan. Once you have that fully executed, you can then start using tools such as Tag Inspector for that ongoing monitoring, ongoing validation of the different tags, different platforms that you have in use. So that is pretty much everything when it comes to the tag management system overview. At this point, I'll open up the floor to any questions that anyone has. All right, doesn't look like I have any questions at this point, which is fine. If anything does come up, if there are any questions that come up, always feel free, as always, to shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to help out with anything that you might be curious about, or if you're going through the tag management system selection process, or even migration process, or just the testing, monitoring, whatever it may be. Let me know. Happy to help out in any way. We'll leave you with this. We have not posted the webinar series for the month of March, but be on the lookout for that. We're going to be focusing on performance, the performance impact of tags, how tags and tag performance can impact both data collection as well as user experience. Some of the different key points to look at, and then with our product training webinars, some of the new metrics that you can find within Tag Inspector to be able to inform a lot of that process. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you everyone for joining here today, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you on future webinars. Thank you.